Oh, it's like 295 days the Grand Theft Auto comes out. Day 32 of Kabbalah and Coffee. Pimp Kabbalah Chronicles, Kabbalah Crash Course, whatever you want to call it. Alright, so we're not fucking around today. We're getting right into Yiddish. Why? Why not? I was up till 5 o'clock in the morning discussing miniature golf. What the fuck? A frank conversation about being a Jewish woman. The Feminist Blueprint Summit starts 22 Shvat. So a bunch of no one knows. Okay, February 9th. That's tight. What would you say about being a Jewish woman? I mean, technically, I'd be like, oh man, it sucks. You know, you bleed. It's the worst. Looks like fucking somebody poured a jar of Smuckers on a fucking napkin. It's amazing. Amachai. That's something that's so pleasurable that it gives life, like fucking rabbi. Halavai. That means that you want to fuck rabbi. That means I wish. Yiddish cup. That means your Jewish head. Yanta. It's kind of a fetish of mine. It's a talkative bitch. Tachlis. That's brass tacks, motherfucker. Nosh. That means to eat. That's what I do to pussies. Bashert. That's your soulmate, baby. Mishmash. Oh, who doesn't know what mishmash means? Mishmash is a Yiddish word that means mixture or medley or jumble. It comes from the Yiddish word mish, which means mix, and is related to the German mish. The classic use of mishmash would be from teaching the fourth plague, Arov, which, according to the most common Jewish teaching, was a mixture of mishmash of wild and dangerous animals. In Jewish law, it is especially pertinent on Shabbat when one of the 39 melchot is not to sort mixed items, a mishmash. Known as borer, selecting, the first prohibition has many caveats and details, such as the fact that one may select certain items from a mishmash, provided that they are needed in the immediate future and that it's done by hand. If you don't know what mishmash is, I mean, everybody knows what mishmash is. Who taught you mishmash? I don't know. Probably my mother or my grandmother. Really? Yeah. Even my grandfather might have taught me that. My father might have even taught me that. Mishmash? Yeah, everybody knows what that is. All right, well, that was a cool story about mishmash. Now what? Jewish Kabbalist. Now, remember we said there's a lot to do today, which sucks. All right, this is Spot. These are my peeps. Dude, we got okay, here we go. So just let this bitch sink in. How about you shut the fuck up? Get it right. Dog, we ain't never left. Oh, and Kabbalah sucks. Everybody knows that. Yo, dog. Meir ben Ezekiel Ibn Gabi, Hebrew, was a Kabbalist born in Spain toward the end of 1480. While the details of his life are not known, he likely lived in Turkey and possibly died in the land of Israel. He complained in his 27th year that he had to work hard to support himself and his family. See end of Talmud Yayab. He was an enthusiastic Kabbalist, noted for thorough mastery of the whole Kabbalistic lore, the most important points of which he, as far as can be judged now, was the first of his generation to treat systematically. He must be regarded, therefore, as the precursor of Moshe Cordovero and Isaac Luria. His first work, completed in 1507 and held in high regard, was Talmud Yayab, a Kabbalistic exposition of the prayer ritual. His chief work, which he finished December 22nd, 1531, after having spent 8 years on it, was Avodah HaKodesh, in which he expounds in detail his Kabbalistic system, making a close study of Maimonides in order the better to refute him. In 1539 he wrote an exposition and defense of the Sefer under the title Derek Emuna, in answer to his pupil Joseph Halevi, who had questioned him in regard to his doctrine of the Sefer. Gabi basing his work on Azriel and Jerome's Parash Ezer Sefer.
Gabi regarded the Zohar as the canonical book of the Kabbalah. His system is tinged with pantheism. God himself, as the first cause of all causes, can neither be conceived nor cognized, and cannot even be mentioned. The name Ensof infinite is a mere makeshift. Even the Keter Elion, the first Sephirah, cannot be conceived or imagined. It is co-eternal with the Ensof, although only its effect. It is what is called in scripture his name. By means of it the other Sephirah emanated from God, being the various manifestations through which the Godhead makes himself cognizable. To them the prayers are addressed, and they are intended in the different designations of God, whose relation to them is the same as that of the soul to the body. The other emanations are the seven Hekalim, which proceed from the Sephirah, and represent in a way the feminine world is contrasted with the masculine world of the Sephirah. They are the real vessels of the further development of the world. This emanation of the world from God constitutes the glory of God, the consciousness of dependence on God, with the striving toward him in order to be united and become one with him, and thereby to acknowledge his unity and effect its realization, is the Yah, the conscious union with God, which is the final aim of the world. Man, a reflection of the highest Hekel, unites in his soul the rays of all the Sephirah, and in himself in general is microcosm all the basic elements of being. His soul therefore is in connection with the upper world, which it is able to influence and stimulate by its actions and aspirations, for everything that happens in this world reaches in wave-like circles to the uppermost regions. By recognizing and fulfilling the religious and moral precepts, man advances the harmony and union of the various grades of creatures, and succeeds in performing his task in life of bringing about of the Yah. Gabi's son Ayon was also a Kabbalist, and his son-in-law Senior Ben Judah Falcon published Gabi's first two books after his death, the Talmud by Ayon with the aid of Abraham Rena of Constantinople in 1560, and Aviv HaKadosh of Venice in 1567. One of his disciples was Rabbi Yosef Yotz, the father of Eliyahu Baal Shem of Prague. He moved from Spain to Krakow in Poland because of the expulsion of the Jews. It is said he was exotic Mr. and Hatchilu Eliyahu. References. Ultimately, Joseph Benny from Cairo, also spelled Yusuf Karo, or Cairo, Hebrew, 1488 March 24, 1575, 13 Nisan 5335 AM, was a prominent Sephardic Jewish rabbi renowned as the author of the last great codification of Jewish law, the Beit Yosef, and its popular analog, the Shalom Era. Cairo is regarded as the preeminent halakhic authority of his time, and is often referred to by the honorific titles Hamekeker, Hebrew, lit, the author, and Maron, Jewish Babylonian Aramaic, lit, our master. Biography. Joseph Caro was born in Toledo, Spain, in 1488. In 1492, aged 4, he was expelled from Spain with his family as a result of the Alhambra decree and subsequently settled in the Kingdom of Portugal. Following his father's death, Caro's uncle Isaac, an author of biblical commentary, adopted him. After the expulsion of the Jews from Portugal in 1497, the Ottomans invited the Jews to settle within their empire. Caro went with his parents, after a brief move to Morocco, to Nicopolis, then a city under Ottoman rule. In Nicopol, he received his first instruction from his father, who was himself an eminent Talmudist. He was married twice, firstly to Isaac Sabba's daughter, and, then after her death, to the daughter of Hayai and Almalai, both of these men being well-known Talmudists. Between 1520 and 1522, Caro settled at Adrianople. He later settled in the city of Save, Ottoman Galilee, where he arrived about 1535, having en route spent several years at Salonika, 1533, and Istanbul. By 1555, Joseph Caro was already a resident of the village near Save, during which year he completed writing the first order of the Shalom Era, RHGM. Rabbinic career. For a short while he lived in Nicopol, but decided to make his way to the land of Israel so that he could immerse himself in its sanctity and complete his written works. Passing through Salonika, he met the great Kabbalist Joseph Tainazab. He continued his journey to the Holy Land via Egypt and eventually settled in Save. At Save, he met Jacob Birab and was soon appointed a member of his rabbinical court. Birab exerted great influence upon him, and Caro became an enthusiastic supporter of Birab's plans for the reinstitution of Semitic rabbinical ordination, which had been in abeyance for over 11 centuries. Caro was one of the first he ordained, and after Birab's death, Caro tried to perpetuate the scheme by ordaining his pupil Moshe Alshich. He finally gave up his endeavors, convinced that he could not overcome the opposition to ordination. Caro also established a yeshiva where he taught Torah to over 200 students. A Yemenite Jewish traveler, Zechariah Datteri, visited Rabbi Caro's yeshiva in St. C. 1567 and noted, I went one Sabbath to the seat of learning, to see his honorable and glorious magnanimity. I sat down by the entrance, alongside the doorpost of the gate, while my cogitations from foolishness were sorely gripped by fear. Now, that wise man the elder sat upon a chair, and with his mouth free to amplify the subject matter, by an utterance he would draw man away from his burden caused by the vicissitudes of time. In drawing him nigh unto the faithful God, he would then clothe him, as it were, in sumptuous apparel fit for those who are free. By his recital of the verse, the law of the Lord is perfect, reviving the soul. He then deliberated on a certain matter by explicating its plain and esoteric sense. Before him were seated about 200 very admirable and distinguished pupils, sitting upon benches. When he had finished his words of wisdom, he gestured to a certain disciple opposite him to speak. Now, when that wise man, i.e., Rabbi Joseph Caro, heard the words of that disciple, he was astonished by his eloquence of speech, who had given plausible arguments about the soul, and he then raised him up and exalted him above all the pupils that were with him. I stayed there a while, until the wise man, i.e., Rabbi Joseph Caro, had gestured to his pupils to stand up, and then gave order to each one to learn a Mishnah. So they went their way. The pupils who were there gathered in the wise man, i.e., Rabbi Joseph Caro. When Jacob Birab died, Caro was regarded as his successor, and together with Moses ben Joseph Titrani, he headed the Bet Din of Save. By this time, the Bet Din of Save had become the central Bet Din in all of Old Yishan, southern Ottoman Syria, and of the Jewish diaspora as well. Thus, there was not a single matter of national or global importance that did not come to the attention and ruling of the Save Bet Din. Its rulings were accepted as final and conclusive, and sages from every corner of the diaspora sought Caro's halakhic decisions and clarifications. Caro was also visited in Save by the great Egyptian scholars of his day, David ben Solomon ibn Abi Zimra and Yaakov de Castro. He came to be regarded as the leader of the entire generation. In a dramatic testimonial, Solomon Alkabetz testified that in Salonika, Caro had become one of the rare individuals who merited to be instructed by a Maggid, a private preacher who revealed to him many Kabbalistic teachings. The Maggid exhorted Caro to sanctify and purify himself, and he revealed events that would take place in the future, in the gates of holiness. Hayim ben Joseph Bible explains that visitation by a Maggid is a form of divine inspiration. The teachings of the Maggid are recorded in his published work titled Maggid Measuring Teacher of Righteousness. Hayim Yosef David Azulay notes that only about 1/50th of the manuscript was published. However, in numerous places in the Maggid Misharim it states, I am the Mishnah that speaks in your mouth, indicating that the oral Torah itself, of which the Mishnah is the fundamental part, spoke within him. The Maggid promised him that he would have the merit of settling in the land of Israel, and this promise was fulfilled. Another promise, that he would merit to die a martyr's death like Solomon Molcho had merited, did not transpire. His reputation during the last 30 years of his life was greater than that of almost any other rabbi since Maimonides. The Italian Jew Azariah dei Rossi, though his views differed widely from Caro's, collected money among the wealthy Italian Jews to have the work of Caro's printed, and Moses Isserles compelled the recognition of one of Caro's decisions in Crack W. However, he had questions on the ruling. When some members of the community of carpenters in the Kingdom of France believed themselves to have been unjustly treated by the majority in a matter relating to taxes, they appealed to Caro, whose letter was sufficient to restore to them their rights and needs. Caro's authority was, if possible, even greater. His name heads the decree of Caro, censure directed against Talmud, Joseph Nazi's agent, and it was Caro who commissioned Elisha Gallico to draw up a decree to be distributed among all Jews ordering that Azariah dei Rossi's light of the eyes, Mir Nenium, be burned. Since Caro died before it was ready for him to sign, the decree was not promulgated, and the rabbis of Mantua contented themselves with forbidding the reading of the work by Jews under 25 years of age. Several funeral orations delivered on that occasion and some elegies from Caro's passing have been preserved. Published works. Caro's literary works are among the masterpieces of rabbinic literature. He published during his lifetime.
All right, so these are big. Bet Yosef, a commentary on Arba'a Turim, the current work of Halakha in his days. In the commentary, Caro shows an astounding mastery over the Talmud and the legalistic literature of the Middle Ages. He felt called upon to systematize the laws and customs of Judaism in the face of disintegration caused by the expulsion of Jews from Spain. Shulchan Aruch, a condensation of his decisions in Bet Yosef, finished in 1555. The code was published in 4 parts in 1565. Kesef Mishnah, written in Nikopol, published in Venice, 1574 to 1575. A commentary on Mishnah Torah by Maimonides. In the introduction, Caro writes that his goal was to quote the source of each law in the Mishnah Torah and defend the work from criticisms of the Abraham ben David. After his death, there appeared Bedek Chabayit, supplements and corrections in the Bet Yosef, Kalale HaTalmud, Salonika, 1598, on the methodology of the Talmud, Avkath Rochel, Salonika, 1791, Responsa, Megan Misharim, Lublin, 1646, and supplements, Venice, 1646, Dereshot, Salonika, 1799, speeches in the collection of Az Zadikim.
After his death, there appeared Maggid Misharim. The Maggid Misharim, 1646, Preacher of Righteousness, is a mystical diary in which Caro, over 50 years, recorded the nocturnal visits of an angelic being, his heavenly mentor, the personified Mishnah. His visitors spurred him to acts of righteousness and even asceticism, exhorted him to study Kabbalah, and reproved him for moral laxities. Burial place. He is buried in Old Cemetery of Safe. Other notable rabbis also buried in Old.
So Isaac Luria is there, Moshe Alsich is there, Salmon and Alphabets is there, Moses Ben Jacob Cordovero. So that's a tight place to get buried. Where do you want to be buried? Baby, I don't want to die. So where do you want to be buried? If you had to be buried one place right now, put me right where the bed of Big Dog should be. Why? Why the fuck not? If I want to be anywhere, why not be right smack in the middle of everything? People fighting over my body. Why? Because it's sexy. All right, where else would you want to be buried? That's it. That's the only place. Where else? I don't know. Maybe the 50-yard line at some amazing stadium and or Hollywood Boulevard. Who knows? Who knows? Just throw my ass in the ocean. That's not a Jewish burial. Okay, well, what else, dog? Dude, Joseph Caro had a shit signature. All right, it's time to learn about Beit Yosef. This means House of Yosef. Does it? Oh, for sure. Everybody knows that. Just like everybody knows what mishmash means. If you don't know what mishmash means, get the fuck out of here.
Also transliterated Beth Yosef, written by Rabbi Joseph Caro, is a long and detailed commentary on the Galactic Code Arba Turin, by Jacob Ben Asher, FLC 1300. The Shulchan Aruch, which Rabbi Caro wrote later in his life, is a condensation of its rulings. Description. Beit Yosef is a comprehensive commentary on the Arba Turin, citing and analyzing the Talmudic, Geonic, and major subsequent halakhic authorities. It analyzes the theories and conclusions of those authorities cited by the term, and also examines the opinions of authorities not mentioned by him. Caro began the Beit Yosef in 1522 in Adrianople, finished it in 1542 at Safed in the land of Israel. He published it in 1550-59. 32 authorities, beginning with the Talmud and ending with the works of Rabbi Israel Iserli, 1390-1460 and known as the Terum of Hadeshin, are summarized and critically discussed in Beit Yosef. No other rabbinical work compares with it in wealth of material. Caro evidences not only an astonishing range of reading, covering almost the entire rabbinic literature up to his time, but also remarkable powers of critical investigation. In the introduction, Caro clearly states the necessity of, and his reasons for undertaking such a work. The expulsion of the Jews from the Iberian Peninsula and the invention of printing had endangered the stability of religious observances on their legal and ritual sides. By the 15th century, the Jews in Spain and the Jews of Portugal followed two main traditions. The older tradition of Maimonides, whose school of thought is heir to the Talmudic academies of Babylonia via the scholars of North Africa, and the Ashkenazi school of the Josephists, whose tradition is based on analytical thinking, related to Pilpul, a methodology that was developed in the yeshivot of France and Germany that taught the importance of the minhagim or customs of the country. Jews then living in the different kingdoms of Spain had their standard authorities to which they appealed. The most prominent of these were Maimonides, whose opinions were accepted in Andalusia, Valencia, Israel, and the Near East. Maimonides Maimonides and Solomon ben Adret, whose opinions were accepted in Catalonia, and Asher ben Gil and his family, of German origin, whose opinions were accepted in Castile. When the Spanish Portuguese exiles came to the various communities in the east and west, where usage is entirely different from those to which they had been accustomed previously, the question naturally arose whether the newcomers, some of whom were men of greater learning than the members of the host communities in Europe, should be ruled by the latter, or vice versa. The proliferation of printed books, moreover, dramatically increased the availability of halakhic literature, so that many half-educated persons, finding themselves in possession of legal treatises, felt justified in following any ancient authority at will. Cairo undertook his Beit Yosef to remedy this problem, quoting and critically examining in his book the opinions of all the major authorities then known.
Dog, why didn't you watch that shit last night? Because I was really tired. I wanted to watch something fun.
The halakhic rulings in the Shulchan. The halakhic rulings in the Shulchan. The halakhic rulings in the Shulchan Miraj, Hebrew, Romanized, Al-Amaru, lit, set table, often called the Code of Jewish Law, is the most widely consulted of the various legal codes in Rabbinic Judaism. It was authored in the city of Safed in what is now Israel by Joseph Caro in 1563 and published in Venice 2 years later. Together with its commentaries, it is the most widely accepted compilation of halakha or Jewish law ever written. The halakhic rulings in the Shulchan Miraj generally follow Sephardic law and customs, whereas Ashkenazi Jews generally follow the halakhic rulings of Moses Israels, whose glosses to the Shulchan Miraj note where the Sephardic and Ashkenazi customs differ. These glosses are widely referred to as the map tablecloth to the set table. Almost all published editions of the Shulchan Miraj include this gloss, and the term has come to denote both Caro's work as well as Israel's, with Caro usually referred to as the Miavar, author, and Israel's as the Rima, a Hebrew acronym of his name. Due to the increased availability of the printing press, the 16th century was an era of legal codification in the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth, the Ottoman Empire, and other countries. Previously unwritten laws and customs were being compiled and recorded. The Shulchan Aruch was one such compilation. In the century after it was published by Caro, whose vision was a unified Judaism under Sephardic traditions, it became the code of law for Ashkenazi Jews together with the later commentaries of Israel's and 17th century Polish rabbis. Structure. The Shulchan Aruch and its forerunner, the Beit Yosef, follow the same structure as the Arba Turin by Jacob ben Asher. There are 4 volumes, each subdivided into many chapters and paragraphs.
Orach Chaim, laws of prayers and synagogue, Sabbath and holidays. Yoredeah, laws of kashrut, conversion to Judaism, mourning, laws pertaining to Israel, Nida. Eben Ha'azar, laws of marriage, divorce, and related issues. Choshen Mishpat, laws of finance, financial responsibility, damage, personal and financial, and the rules of the Beit Din, as well as the laws of witnesses.
In the aside page, Caro's and Israel's combined text is in the center of the page. Top. Since the 17th century, the Shulchan Aruch has been printed with Israel's annotations in small Rashi print and indicated by a preceding interspersed with Caro's text. Surrounding this are the primary commentators for the section.
On Orach Chaim, Avraham Gombener, Magen Abraham, and David Halevi Segal's Taz. On Yoredeah, Shabbatai HaKohen and the Taz. On Ibn Ha'azar, Samuel ben Uri Shraga, Phoebus and Moses ben Isaac Judah Lima's Helchat Mechachek. On Chosen Mishpat, Shabbatai HaKohen and Joshua Fox Marriott in the Ayin.
On the margins are various other commentaries and cross-references. See below. As commentaries on the work proliferated, more sophisticated printing styles became required, similar to those of the Talmud. Additionally, many recent publishers have reformatted this work with the intent to make it more accessible to the reader. Beit Yosef. Its premise and style. The Shulchan Aruch is largely based on an earlier work by Caro, titled Beit Yosef. Although the Shulchan Aruch is largely a codification of the rulings of the Beit Yosef, it includes various rulings that are not mentioned at all in the Beit Yosef, because after completing the Beit Yosef, Caro read opinions in books he hadn't seen before, which he then included in the Shulchan Aruch. In his famous methodological work Yod Malachi, then Jacob HaKohen cites a later halakhic authority, Shmuel of Yuham, who reports rumors that the Shulchan Aruch was a summary of Caro's earlier rulings in Beit Yosef, which he then gave to certain of his students to edit and compile. He concludes that this would then account for those seemingly self-contradictory instances in the Shulchan Aruch. The standard authorities. Caro initially intended to rely on his judgment regarding differences of opinion between the various authorities, especially where he could support his view based on the Talmud, but he wrote that he abandoned this idea because, who has the courage to rear his head aloft among mountains, the heights of God? Hence Caro adopted the halakha of Isaac Alfasi, Maimonides, and Asher ben Gil as his standards, accepting as authoritative the opinion of 2 of the 3, except in cases where most of the ancient authorities were against them or in cases where there was already an accepted custom contrary to his ruling. The net result of these last exceptions is that in several cases Caro rules in favor of Thul of Maimonides and Shlomo ibn Adar, thus indirectly reflecting Ashkenazi opinions against the consensus of Alfasi and Maimonides. Caro often decides disputed cases without necessarily considering the age and importance of the authority in question, expressing his views simply. He follows Maimonides' example, as seen in Mishneh Torah, rather than that of Jacob ben Asher, who seldom decides between ancient authorities. Several reasons led Caro to connect his work with the Torah instead of Maimonides.
The Torah, although not considered as great as an authority of Maimonides' code, was much more widely known, the latter being recognized only among Sephardic Jews, while the former enjoyed a high reputation among Ashkenazim and Sephardim, as well as Italian Jews. Caro intended to give not merely the results of his investigations, like Maimonides did, but also the investigations themselves. He wished not only to aid the officiating rabbi in the performance of his duties, but also to trace for the student the development of particular laws from the Talmud through later rabbinical literature. On tour, Maimonides' code encompasses all fields of halakha, including both those of present-day relevance and those dealing with past and future times, such as laws of sacrifices, Mashiach in Judaism, kings, etc. For Karl, whose interest lay in ruling on the practical issues, the tour seemed a better choice.
Moses Isserles began writing his commentary on the Arba Turim and the Derek Moshe around the same time as Yosef Karo. Karo finished his work, Bet Yosef, firsthand. It was presented to the Rema as a gift from one of his students. Upon receiving the gift, the Rema could not understand how he had spent so many years unaware of Karo's efforts. After looking through the Bet Yosef, the Rema realized that Karo had mainly relied upon Sephardic poskim. In place of Karo's three standard authorities, Isserles cites the later authorities chiefly based on the works of Yaakov Molin, Israel Isserlin and Israel Bruna, together with the Franco-German Tosophists, as criteria of opinion. While Ben Gideon on many occasions based his decision on these sources, Isserles gave them more prominence in developing practical legal rulings. By incorporating these other opinions, Isserles addressed some major criticisms regarding what many viewed as the arbitrary selection of the three authorities upon whose opinions Karo based his work. After realizing this, Isserles shortened the Derek Moshe to focus only on rulings which differ from Bet Yosef. The halakhic rulings in the Shulchan Aruch generally follow the Sephardic custom. Isserles added his glosses and published them as a commentary on the Shulchan Aruch, specifying whenever the Sephardic and Ashkenazic customs differed. These glosses are sometimes referred to as the tablecloth to the said table. Almost all published editions of the Shulchan Aruch include this gloss. The importance of the minhag prevailing local custom is also a point of dispute between Karo and Isserles. While Karo held fast to original authorities and material reasons, Isserles considered the minhag as an object of great importance, and not to be omitted in a codex. This point led Isserles to write his glosses to the Shulchan Aruch, so that the minhagim of the Ashkenazim might be recognized and not set aside due to Karo's reputation. Reception. Karo wrote the Shulchan Aruch in his old age, for the benefit of those who did not possess the education necessary to understand the Beit Yosef. The format of this work parallels that adopted by Jacob ben Asher in his Arba Turim, but more concisely, without citing sources. Shulchan Aruch has been the code of rabbinical Judaism for all ritual and legal questions that arose after the destruction of the temple in Jerusalem. See Halakha Orthodox Judaism and Yeshiva Jewish or its contemporary function and status. The author himself had no very high opinion of the work, remarking that he had written it chiefly for young students. He never refers to it in his responsa, but always to the Beit Yosef. The Shulchan Aruch achieved its reputation and popularity not only against the wishes of the author, but, perhaps, through the very scholars who criticized it. Recognition or denial of Karo's authority lay entirely with the Polish Talmudists. German Jewish authorities had been forced to give way to Polish ones as early as the beginning of the 16th century. Karo had already been opposed by several Sephardic contemporaries, Yom Tov Zahalin, who designated the Shulchan Aruch as a book for children and ignoramuses, and Jacob Castro, whose work Eretah Shulchan consists of critical glosses to the Shulchan Aruch. Moses Isserles and Maharshal were Karo's first important adversaries in Eastern Europe. Further, in response to those who wished to force the rulings of the Shulchan Aruch upon those communities following Rambam, Karo wrote, "Who is he whose heart conspires to approach forcing congregations who practice according to the Rambam of blessed memory, to go by any one of the early or latter-day Torah authorities? Is it not a case of the Forshiura, that regarding the school of Shammai that the halakha does not go according to them? They said it like the school of Shammai according to their leniencies and their stringencies. The Rambam is the greatest of all the Torah authorities, and all the communities of the land of Israel and the Arab-controlled lands in the west practice according to his word, and accepted him upon themselves as their chief rabbi. Whoever practices according to him with his leniencies and his stringencies, why coerce them to budge from him? And all the more so if also their fathers and forefathers practiced accordingly, for their children are not to turn right or left from the Rambam of blessed memory. And even if communities that practice according to the Rosh or other authorities like him became the majority, they cannot coerce the minority of congregations practicing according to the Rambam of blessed memory, to practice like they do. And there is no issue here concerning the prohibition against having two courts in the same city, since every congregation should practice according to its original custom." Similarly, many later halakhic authorities predicated the acceptance of the authority of the Shulchan Aruch on the lack of an existing and widely accepted custom to the contrary. Eventually, though, the rulings of the Shulchan Aruch became the accepted standard not only in Europe and the diaspora, but even in the land of Israel where they had previously followed other authorities. Criticism by Karo's contemporaries. Following its initial appearance, many rabbis criticized the appearance of this latest code of Jewish law, echoing similar criticisms of previous codes of law. Rabbi Judah Lo ben Bezalel, known as Maharil, 1520-1609, wrote, "To decide halakhic questions from the codes without knowing the source of the ruling was not the intent of these authors. Had they known that their works would lead to the abandonment of Talmud, they would not have written them. It is better for one to decide on the basis of the Talmud even though he might err, for a scholar must depend solely on his understanding. As such, he is beloved of God, and preferable to the one who rules from a code but does not know the reason for the ruling. Such a one walks like a blind person." Rabbi Samuel Eels, known as the Maharsha, 1550-1631, criticized those who rule directly from the Shulchan Aruch without being fully conversant with the Talmud source of the ruling. In these generations, those who rule from the Shulchan Aruch without knowing the reasoning and Talmudic basis are among the destroyers of the world and should be protested. Rabbi Yoel Sirkis. Another prominent critic of the Shulchan Aruch was Joel Sirkis, 1561-1640, rabbi and author of the commentary to the Arba Turim entitled The New House, commonly abbreviated as the Bach, and Meir Lublin, author of the commentary on the Bach entitled the Shat HaBach. It is impossible to rule, in most cases, based on the Shulchan Aruch, as almost all his words lack accompanying explanations, particularly when writing about monetary law. Besides this, we see that many legal doubts arise daily, and are mostly the subject of scholarly debate, necessitating vast wisdom and proficiency to arrive at a sufficiently sourced ruling. Other criticisms. The strongest criticism against all such codes of Jewish law is the contention that they inherently violate the principle that halakha must be decided according to the later sages. This principle is commonly known as Hilki K. Batriye. The halakha follows the later ones. A modern commentator, Menachem Elon, explains. This rule dates from the Geonic period. It laid down the law and states that until the time of Rabbis Abai and Rabbah, 4th century, the halakha was to be decided according to the views of the earlier scholars. But from that time onward, the halakhic opinions of post-Talmudic scholars would prevail over the contrary opinions of the previous generation. See Piskei Herash, Bava Metzah 310, 421, Shabbat 23, 1, and also the Rif writing at the end of Eruvin ch. 2. If one does not find their statements correct and is able to maintain his own views with evidence that is acceptable to his contemporaries, he may contradict the earlier statements, since all matters that are not clarified in the Babylonian Talmud may be questioned and restated by any person, and even the statements of the Geonim may be different from him, just as the statements of the Amoraim differed from the earlier ones. On the contrary, we regard the statements of later scholars to be more authoritative because they knew the reasoning of the earlier scholars as well as their own, and took it into consideration in making their decision. Piskei Herash, Sanhedrin 4, 6, Responsa of the Rosh 55, 9. The controversy itself may explain why the Shulchan Aruch became an authoritative code, despite significant opposition, and even against the will of its author, while Maimonides, 1135-1204, mismet Torah rulings were not necessarily accepted as binding among the Franco-German Jews, perhaps owing to the criticism and influence of Abraham ibn Daud, known as the Rabbah, 1110-1180. The answer may lie in the fact that the criticism by Ibn Daud undermined confidence in Maimonides' work, while Israel's, who corresponded with Caro, does not simply criticize, but supplements Caro's work extensively. The result was that Ashkenazim accepted the Shulchan Aruch, assuming that together with Israel's glosses it was a reliable authority. This then became broadly accepted among Jewish communities around the world as the binding Jewish legal code. Praise. The later major halakhic authorities defer to both Caro and Israel's and cite their work as the baseline from which further halakhic rulings evolved. The 17th century scholar Joshua H. Shell ben Joseph wrote, "Wrong their wells do we drink and should a question arise on their work. Not for this shall we come to annul their words. Rather we must study further as much as we can, and if we are unable to resolve our question, then we will ascribe it to our own lack of knowledge and not, as a reason to, annul the words of these geniuses." Jonathan Ebeschatz, D. 1764, wrote that the great breadth of the work would make it impossible to constantly come to the correct conclusion if not for the Spirit of God. Therefore, says Ebeschatz, one cannot rely on a view not presented by the Shulchan Aruch. Yehuda Heller Kahana, D. 1819, also said that was the reason one cannot rely on a view not formulated in the Shulchan Juri. Major commentaries. A large body of commentaries have appeared on the Shulchan Aruch, beginning soon after its publication. The first major gloss, Haggadah by Moses Israels, was published shortly after the Shulchan Aruch appeared. Israel's student, Yehoshua Fall Cohen published Sefer Merathenium, on Shoshan Mistat, abbreviated Asima, several decades after the main work. Important works by the later authorities, Acharonim include but are not limited to
Magen Abraham Shield by Abraham Gombiner on Orachaim. Turei Zahav, Rose of Gold, abbreviated as Taz, by David Halevi Sego on Orachaim, Yoredea, and even Ha'ezer. Siftei Cohen, Lips of the Priest, abbreviated as Shach, by Shabbatai HaKohen on Yoredea and Chosin Mishpat. Beit Shmuel by Samuel ben Uri, Shraga, Phoebus, and Chelkat. Machokek by Moses ben Isaac Judah Lima on Even Ha'ezer. Ba'ar Hetev, well explained by Judah Ashkenazi and Zechariah Mendel ben Aryeh Lieb. Peri Chadash, New Fruit by Hezekiah de Silva. Peri Megadim by Joseph ben Choice Fruit. So Peri Chadash is New Fruit. Peri Megadim is Choice Fruit by Joseph ben Meir Tionim. Be'er HaTev is well explained. Siftei Cohen was Lips of the Priest, abbreviated as Shach, by Shabbatai HaKohen on Yoredea and Choshen Mishpat. Turei Zahav was Rose of Gold, abbreviated as Taz. Okay. Peri Chadash is New Fruit. Peri Megadim is Choice Fruit. Peri Chadash is New Fruit by Hezekiah de Silva. Peri Megadim, Choice Fruit by Joseph ben Meir Teomim. Sha'arei Teshuva, Entry to Responsa by Chaim Mordechai Margolioth. Makatsi HaShekel, Half Shekel by Samuel Well.
While these major commentaries enjoy widespread acceptance, some early editions of the Shulchan Aruch were self-published, primarily in the late 17th and early 18th centuries with commentaries by various rabbis, although these commentaries never achieved significant recognition. A wealth of later works include commentary and exposition by such halakhic authorities as the Ketz of HaShoshan and Avnei Miluim, Nediv of Mispat, the Vilna Gaon, Rabbi Yechesko Landau, Dagel Mervava, Rabbis Akiva Eger, Moses Sofer, and Chaim Joseph David Azoleh, Berkouyi Yusuf, whose works are widely recognized and cited extensively in later halakhic literature. In particular, Mishnah Berurah, which summarizes and decides amongst the later authorities on the Aruch Hayim section of Shulchan Aruch, has achieved widespread acceptance. It is frequently even studied as a standalone commentary, since it is assumed to discuss all or most of the views of the major commentaries on the topics that it covers. Kav Hachain is a similar Sephardic work. See further below these types of works. Several commentaries are printed on each page. Bir HaGala, by Rabbi Moshe Rivkash, provides cross-references to the Talmud, other law codes, commentaries, and responsa, and thereby indicates the various sources for halakhic decisions. Bir HaGra, by the Vilna Gaon as mentioned, traces the underlying maglika, deliberation, including how it eventually plays out, and evaluates this practice in light of the various opinions of Rishon and Bir. Later collations. In the late 18th century, there were several attempts to recompile the major halakhic opinions into a simpler, more accessible form. Rabbi Shner Zalman of Liadi wrote a Shulchan Aruch at the behest of the Hasidic leader, Rabbi Docker of Mezerich. To distinguish this work from Karo's, it is generally referred to as Shulchan Aruch Harag. Rabbi Abraham Danzig was the first in the Lithuanian Jewish community to attempt a summary of the opinions in the above-mentioned works in his Jei Adam and Chachot Adam. Similar works are Barhiva and Shari Teshuva Pitchei Teshuva, usually published as commentaries in most editions of the Shulchan Aruch, as well as Kitzer Shulchan Aruch, by Rabbi Shlomo Gansfried of Hungary. Danzig's and Gansfried's works do not follow the structure of the Shulchan Aruch, but given their single-voiced approach, are considered easier to follow for those with less background in Halacha. The Mishnah Berurah, the main work of Halakha by Rabbi Yisrael Meir Kagan. The Chafetz Chaim is a collation of the opinions of later authorities on the Aruch Chaim section of the Shulchan Aruch. Aruch HaShulchan, by Rabbi Yechiel Michel Epstein, is a more analytical work attempting the same task from a different angle, and covering all sections of the Shulchan Aruch. The former, though narrower in scope, enjoys much wider popularity and is considered authoritative by many adherents of Orthodox Judaism, especially among those typically associated with Ashkenazic yeshivas, the Benish Chai, Yaf HaChaim, and much more recently, the Yalkut Yosef or similar works by Sephardic rabbis for their communities. Halacha Yomid. Sections of the Shulchan Aruch are studied in many Jewish schools throughout the world on a daily basis. There is also a daily study program known as the Halacha Yomid. Kitzer Shulchan Aruch is covered in the Halacha Yomis program, or Halacha Yomid, as it is known in Israel, is a learning program which covers the entire Shulchan Aruch Aruch Chaim followed by the Kitzer Shulchan Aruch. The cycle takes about 4 years to complete. Every day, Jewish participants study 3 sifim, subsections, of Shulchan Aruch or 5 sifim of Kitzer. Kitzer Shulchan Aruch is covered in addition to Shulchan Aruch Aruch Chaim to include the generally applicable halachas not included in Aruch Chaim. History. The Halacha Yomis was started circa 1950 by Yomis Stengel, under the guidance of many Orthodox Jewish leaders at the time, including Avraham Yeshaya Karelitz. The Halacha Yomis and the Mishnah Yomis, also started at about the same time, were launched in the memory of the 6 million Jews that were murdered in the Holocaust. Breslov Hasidim have a similar practice to daily review the Shulchan Aruch. See also.
Right, just one moment, folks. I gotta get this shit together. Look at this lettuce, little baby. What's going on here? Oh, shit happens. Everybody knows shit happens when you party naked. Come on, you little bitch. Do you like talking about this shit? I'd rather be talking about aliens, to be honest with you. Alright? Do you like talking about it, though? I mean, it's okay. It's not. There's worse shit. It's cool. Oh, some elements of it are cool. Some of them are boring as fuck. Why? This just shit happens, baby. What do you want me to do about it? Come on, you slut. This phone sucks. It's the worst. Is it? It's actually pretty good. Really? Psych, bitch. Come on, you little slut. Get your shit together. This shit is the worst. Is it? Dog. I want automatic starting on shit. No wait times. If there's a wait time, then we have to go to those engineers and say, why is there a wait time? And they're like, oh, because we didn't process the code efficient. Okay, well, get your shit together. Be efficient. Everything should be really fucking efficient. That could be my fucking middle name. Efficiency. Rabbi Strength and Conditioning Dynasty Efficiency Rabbi Rothschild. That could be my fucking name. Why? Because I'm sick as fuck and I kind of have to maybe make a poop. Really? No one knows. Just making shit up. Come on, you little bitch. This shit sucks. Dog, it's the worst. Dog, just start up. What are you doing? Like, what is it? It doesn't give me a timer. I don't have any progress. Dog, give me a fucking progress. I need a progress bar. Progress bars are really fucking important. This shit is the worst. In the history of humankind, this might be the most bullshittiest shit ever. Come on. Go, you little bitch. Oh, this is the worst. This shit's the worst. Dog. What's taking so long? Dog. Dog. Are you fucking serious? Come on, you bitch. Come on, you little slut. Dog, are you serious? Dog. Dog. We're gonna give this thing 15 seconds, 14 seconds, 13 seconds, 12 seconds, 11 seconds, 10 seconds, 9 seconds, 8 seconds, 6 seconds, 5 seconds, 4 seconds. Come on, you little bitch. I mean, come on. That shit's gotta start working faster. Look at this athleticism, though. Alright. Next one. Shlomo Alphabets. This guy sucks.
Solomon HaLevi Alkabetz, Hebrew, Romanized, Shlomo HaLevi Alkabetz, c. 1505-1584, was a rabbi, Kabbalist and poet. He is perhaps best known for his composition of the song Lekadodi. Biography. Solomon Alkabetz was likely born around 1505 into a Sephardic family in the Ottoman city of Salonika, the son of Moses Alkabetz. He studied Torah under Joseph Tainazak. In 1529, he married the daughter of Yitzhak Cohen, a wealthy householder living in his hometown. Alkabetz gave his father-in-law a copy of his newly completed work Manat HaLevi. He settled in Adrianopolis, where he wrote Bet Hashem, Avodat Ahava, Ayolat Ahavim, and Brit HaLevi. He dedicated this latter work to his admirers in Adrianople. His students included Samuel ben Isaac de Unila, author of the Midrash Shmuel on the Birkei Avim, and Abraham ben Mordecai Galante, author of Yari Chiakar on the Zohar. His circle included Moshe Alshich and Joseph Caro, as well as his famous brother-in-law Moses ben Jacob Cordovero. Following the practice described in the Zohar of reciting biblical passages known as the Tikkun on the night of Shavuot, Rabbi Solomon and Rabbi Joseph Caro stayed awake all that night reading. During the recitation of the required texts, Rabbi Caro had a mystical experience. The Shekinah appeared as a Maggid, praising the circle and telling them to move to the land of Israel. When they stayed up again on the second night of Shavuot, the Shekinah was adamant about their moving to the land of Israel. Alkabetz recorded the account. Before moving to the land of Israel, he made a sermon passionately discussing the rebuilding of the temple in Jerusalem with messianic enthusiasm. He settled in Safe age 30, likely in 1535. In Safe, he made significant contributions to the development of Kabbalah, serving as a mystical instructor to Moses Cordovero, who later became his brother-in-law and one of Safe's most esteemed Kabbalists before the arrival of Isaac Luria. Alkabetz was deeply involved in the spiritual life of the city, exemplified by his authorship of Lekadodi, a liturgical song sung during the Shabbat service. This influence persisted even as Lurianic Kabbalah, promoted by Chaim Vital and Israel Seraph, eventually eclipsed Cordoverian Kabbalah in popularity and status among Kabbalists. He is buried in the Old Safe Cemetery. Views and opinions. His works written in Adrianopolis center on the holiness of the people of Israel, the land of Israel, and the specialness of the mitzvot. Alkabetz accepts the tradition that Esther was married to Mordecai before being taken to the king's palace and becoming queen, and even continues her relationship with Mordecai after taking up her royal post. The view of Midrash articulated by Alkabetz and other members of the school of Joseph Tainazak represents an extension of the view of the authority of the oral law in Midrash Shalakha to Agadah, and thus leads to the sanctification and near canonization of Aggadic expansions of biblical narrative. Published works. In print. Manuscripts. Notes.
All right, here we go, folks. Ayat of Ahavim, completed in 1532, published in 1552 on Song of Songs. Brit HaLevi, Brit HaLevi, a Kabbalistic commentary on the Haggadah. Lecha Dodi, a mystical hymn to inaugurate the Shabbat. Manot HaLevi, completed 1529, published 1585 on the Book of Esther. On Zadikim, a book of sermons. Shoresh Yishai, completed 1552, published 1561 on the Book of Ruth. Manuscripts. Apiron Shlomo, Beit Hashem, Beit Tefillah, interpretations of the prayers. Divrei Shlomo, on the section of scripture known as writings. Lechem Shlomo, on the guidelines for the sanctification of meals, according to Kabbalah. Metato Shel Shlomo, on the mystical significance of sexual union. Wow, chicka wow, wow. Naim Zemerot, on Psalms. Pitzei Ohev, on the Book of Job. Shomer Abunim, on the fundamental principles of faith. Sukkot Shalom, Avotot, Ahava, on the Torah. That's tight. Do you know Lacha Dodi? Yeah. I mean, that's pretty basic. But we're gonna can see this bitch is working. Are you fucking serious? Dog, this shit sucks. Worst shit ever.
is a Hebrew language Jewish liturgical song recited Friday at dusk, usually at sundown, in synagogue to welcome the Sabbath prior to the evening services. It is part of Kabbalah Shabbat. The refrain of Lekadodi means let us go, my beloved, to greet the bride the Sabbath presence. Let us welcome, and is a request of Israel's beloved God, to join together in welcoming the bride, the Sabbath. The phrase let us go, my beloved is taken from Song of Songs 7:12, 7:11 in English Bibles, which Abba B. Joseph B. Amma interpreted as Israel talking to God. During the singing of the last verse, the entire congregation rises and turns to the west. Traditional congregations face Jerusalem for the rest of services, or to the door. Some have the custom to exit the sanctuary of the synagogue. The congregation bows at come, O bride, and turns back toward the front of the synagogue. Some bow only forwards and others to the sides and then forwards. It was composed in the 16th century by Rabbi Shlomo Halevi Alkabetz, who was born in the Ottoman city of Thessaloniki and later became a safe Kabbalist, as was common at the time. The song is also an acrostic, with the first letter of the first 8 stanzas spelling the author's name. The author draws from the rabbinic interpretation of the Song of Songs, suggested as linguistically originating in the 3rd century BCE, in which the maiden is seen as a metaphor for an ancient Jewish population residing within Israel's biblical limits, and the lover, Dod, is a metaphor for God, and from Nevi'im, which uses the same metaphor. The poem shows Israel asking God to bring upon that great Shabbat of messianic deliverance. It is one of the latest Hebrew poems regularly accepted into the traditional liturgy. Melody. Already in the early 20th century, Abraham Zevi Idelson recorded hundreds of different tunes used for Lekadodi. Among some Sephardic congregations, the hymn is sometimes chanted to an ancient Moorish melody, which is known to be much older than the text of Lekadodi. This is clear not only from internal evidence, but also from the rubric in Old Siddurim directing the hymn to be sung to the melody of Shuvi Nafshi Minakayeki, a composition of Judah Halevi, who died nearly 5 centuries before Alkabetz. In this rendering, carried to Israel by Spanish refugees before the days of Alkabetz, the hymn is chanted congregationally, the refrain being employed as an introduction only. In some very old-style Ashkenazic synagogues, the verses are ordinarily chanted at elaborate length by the Hazan, and the refrain is used as a congregational response. But in most Ashkenazic Orthodox synagogues, it is sung by everyone together to any of a large number of tunes. This includes the Orthodox synagogues who employ this element and synagogues under the modern Orthodox umbrella. Old German and Polish melodies. At certain periods of the year, many northern congregations discard later compositions in favor of 2 simple older melodies singularly reminiscent of the folk song of Northern Europe in the century succeeding that in which the verses were written. The better known of these is Amir, reserved for the Omer weeks between Passover and Shavuot, which has been variously described, because of certain of its phrases, as an adaptation of the famous political song Lillibullero and of the Cavatina in the beginning of Mozart's Notes a Figaro, but resemblances to German folk song of the end of the 17th century may be found generally throughout the melody. Less widely utilized in the present day is the special air tradition for the 3 weeks preceding Tisha B'Av, although this is characterized by much tender charm absent from the melody of Eli Tzion, which more often takes its place, but it was once very generally sung in the northern congregations of Europe, and a variant was chosen by Benedetto Marcello for his rendition of Psalm 19 in his Estro Potico Armonico or Paraphrasi Sopra Lee Salmi, Venice, 1724, where it is quoted as an air of the German Jews. Cantor Edward Bernblom discovered the source of this melody in a Polish folk song, West Jakontas, West, given in Oscar Kolbert's piece Ludu Polskiego Warsaw, 1857. An old melody, of similarly obvious folk song origin, was favored in the London Jewry a century ago, and was sung in 2 slightly divergent forms in the old city synagogues. Both of these forms are given by Isaac Nathan in his setting of Byron's Hebrew Melodies London, 1815, where they constitute the air selected for She Walks in Beauty, the first verses in the series. The melody has since fallen out of use in English congregations and elsewhere. Text. The full version of the song. Note that many Reformed congregations omit verses 3, 4, 6, 7 and 8 which make reference to messianic redemption, while Sephardic congregations based in the Jerusalem and Aleppo rites omit verse 4 and verses 6 through 8, as they make reference to agony. In the Sephardic rite and Chassidic tradition, the last section is replaced with see also. Reference it.
I've got to read this shit. Sucks. I'm not going to read it in Hebrew. Why? Because it's... I mean, I could. But you know what else could happen? This shit could work. Dog. Come on, you little bitch. There we go. Now we're cooking with gasoline, kids. Alright, where's that shit? Is this shit gonna work? Maybe. Be tight as fuck. For Rizzy? Oh, for Shizzy. Look at this move. Folks, look at this move. Oh, I don't know if this is gonna work. Maybe. Look at this athleticism, though. Look at this move. Folks, do you see this? Do you see this athleticism? This is some of the most athletic shit we've ever witnessed in the history of humankind. This is sick as fuck. Alright, are you done? Oh, we're cooking with fire now. Let's go, my beloved, to meet the bride. Let us welcome the presence of Shabbat. Pene Shabbat, Nekabala. Verse 1. Safeguard and remember in a single utterance. Shamor, Vechazor, Bebadi, Betty Boober, Bedi Bediber Echad. We were made to hear by the unified God. Hashemanayu. I don't know if you can say that. Hamayayu. Hamayohad. God is one, and God's name is one. Dude, I can't say these. I mean, I guess for educational purposes, somebody want me to say Adonai Echad, Ushemo Echad, in fame and splendor and praiseful song, Leshem Ule Teferet Velitila. Verse 2, to greet the Shabbat, let's go, let's be gone, Lequat Shabbat, Leku Benakela, for she is the wellspring of blessing. Kihi Mekor Haberacha, from the start, from ancient times, she was chosen. Barosh Makedem Nesuka, last made but first planned. Sof Maase Bemhamashava, but no, Ben Mahashava Tehila. Verse 3, sanctuary of the king, royal city. Mikdash Melech Maluka, arise, leave from the midst of this turmoil. Kimi Tize Mitok Ha Hafekta. No. Ha Feka. Long enough have you sat in the valley of tears. Rav Lak Shavat Rav Lak Shavet Be Emek Habaka. And he will take great pity upon you compassionately. And he will take great pity upon you compassionately. Vehu Yahamo Alayik Hemla. Verse 4, shake yourself free, rise and the dust. Hit Na'ari Me Afar Kumi, dress in your garments of splendor, my people. Livshi Bigdi Tif Artek Ami. By the hand of Jesse, son of Bethlehem, Al Yad ben Yishay Bet Hal Ami. Draw near to my soul, redeem it. Korva El Nafshi Get Allah. Verse 5, rouse yourselves, rouse yourselves. Hitore, hitore. No, hit or hit or airy. Hit or airy, hit or airy. Your light is coming, rise up and shine. Kiva orek kumri, no. Kiva orek kumi ori. Awaken, awaken, utter a song. Uri, uri, shir, daberi. The glory of Hashem is revealed upon you. Kivod Adonai, Alaik, Nigla. Do not be embarrassed, do not be ashamed. Lo, Tivoshi, Velo, Tik Almi. Why be downcast, why groan? Ma Tishtohahi, Uma Tihemi. All my afflicted people will find refuge. All my afflicted people will find refuge within you. Bak Yehesu, Aniye Ami. And the city shall be rebuilt on her hill. Ven Eve Neta al Tila. Verse 7. Your despoilers will become spoil. Beahu, Beahu, Lim Shisha, Shoseki, Shoseki, Shos a ik. Far away shall be any who would devour you. Verahaku kol melval aik. Your God will rejoice concerning you. Yasis alayik Elohayik. As a groom rejoices over the bride. Kismos Hatan Alkala. Verse 8. To your right and your left, you will burst forth. Yamin Utsmal Tif Rotzi. And the Hashem will you revere. Be'et Adonai Ta'aritzi. By the hand of a child of parrots, Al Yad Ish Ben Partzi. We will rejoice and sing happily. Venishema, Venishmeha, Ven Nagila. Verse 9. Come in peace, crown of her husband. Boy Veshalom, Adarit La. Both in happiness and jubilation, Gam Besima U Vets Ohola. Amidst the faithful of the treasured nation, Tok Umune Segula. Come, O bride, Boi Boi Kala. In Sephardic rite and Hasidic tradition, the last section is replaced with verse 9. Come in peace, crown of her husband, Boi Veshalom Ateret Bala, both in song and jubilation, Gam Barina Uzohola, amidst the faithful of the treasured nation, Tok Umune Segula, come, O bride, Shabbat queen, Boy Kala Shabbat Malketa. Well, that was a bunch of bullshit. Really? No, I was tight. I know that one. Really? How's it go? Lahanoni? Yeah, it goes like that. Everybody knows that. Really? Yeah, it sucks. Everybody knows that. Everybody knows everything sucks. Really? Oh, for sure, dog. Does it? Everything's the worst. Moshe Alsich Hakadosh. What does that mean? It means something. Bullshit. Out of the water bullshit.
Moshe Alshich Hebrew, also spelled Alshech, 1508-1593, known as the Alshich Hakadosh, the Holy, was a prominent rabbi, preacher, and biblical commentator in the latter part of the 16th century. Life. The Alshich was born in 1508 in the Ottoman city of Adrianople, and was the son of Hayyun Alshich. He studied in Saloniki under the exiled Hakanim Joseph Tatzak and Joseph Karo, author of the Shulchan Miraj. Following Karo to Save, in modern-day Israel, where he taught notable students including Rabbi Haim Weigel and Rabbi Yontav Zahalin. Although the Alshich belonged to the circle of the Kabbalists who lived at the city, his works rarely betray any traces of the Kabbalah. He is celebrated as a teacher, preacher, and casuist. Little is known of his life. In his works he avoids mention of himself, telling only of his course of study. Thus in the preface to his commentary on the Pentateuch he says, I never aimed at things too high or beyond me. From my earliest days the study of the Talmud was my chief occupation, and I assiduously attended the yeshiva where I made myself familiar with the discussions of the ViralRabbi. The night I devoted to research and the day to the lecture. In the morning I read the Talmud and in the afternoon the Pasukim, rabbinic legal decisions. Only on Fridays could I find time for the reading of scripture and midrash in preparation for my lectures on the Siddur of the week and similar topics, which I delivered every Sabbath before large audiences, eager to listen to my instruction. Alshich traveled through Syria, Turkey, and Persia. Legend has it that his son was taken as a child and became a Muslim, and the Arizal offered a special prayer for the son's return. He died in Safed in 1593. Significance. Only a few rabbis were granted the title Hakadosh throughout Jewish history. Alongside the Alshich were the Shelah HaKadosh, the Ari HaKadosh, and the Or HaHaim HaKadosh, all of them distinctive personalities in their times. Various reasons have been suggested why the Alshich received the HaKadosh, holy, title. His homiletical commentaries on the Torah and the prophets enjoy much popularity and are still studied today, largely because of their powerful influence as practical exhortations to virtuous life.
Do you think you'll be known as Hakadosh Pimp someday? Oh, for sure.
Works. These lectures were afterward published as commentaries, Parashim, on the books of the Holy Scriptures, and Alshich gives a remarkable reason for their publication. Many of those who had listened to my lectures repeated them partly or wholly in their own names. These offenses will be prevented by the publication of my own work. These lectures, though somewhat lengthy, were not tedious to his audience. The author repeatedly declares that in their printed form, as commentaries, he greatly curtailed them by omitting everything which was not absolutely necessary, or which he had already mentioned in another place. Like Abravanel and some other commentators, Alshich headed each section of his comments with a number of questions which he anticipated on the part of the reader. He then proceeded to give a summary of his view, and concluded with answering all the questions seriatim. His commentaries abound in references to Talmud, Midrash, and Zohar, but contain scant references to other commentaries, such as the works of Abravanel, Gersonites, or Maimonides. His explanations are all of a homiletical character, his sole object being to find in each sentence or in each word of the scriptures a moral lesson, a support for trust in God, encouragement to patient endurance, and a proof of the vanity of all earthly goods as compared with the everlasting bliss to be acquired in the future life. He frequently and earnestly appeals to his brethren, exhorting them to repent, and to abandon, or at least restrict, the pursuit of all worldly pleasures, and thus accelerate the approach of the Messianic era. Alshich possessed an easy and fluent style. His expositions are mostly of an allegorical character, but very rarely approach mysticism. In his commentary on the Song of Solomon, he calls Pashati, literal explanation, and Sod, mystical interpretation, the two opposite extremes, while he declares his own method of introducing allegorical exposition to be the safe mean between these extremes. Alshich wrote the following commentaries, most of which have appeared in several editions.
Torah Moshe, commentary on Pentateuch, first edition, Belvedere near Constantinople, about 1593, complete with indexes, Venice 1601. An abstract of this commentary was prepared by Joseph B. Aryeh Loeb and has appeared in various forms entitled Kitzer Alsich Al Torah, Amsterdam 1748. If you didn't have your glasses, how close did you have to read this? Like this? Marot Ha Tesavot, Collected Visions. Can you read it from here? No. Really? No. Marot Ha Tesavot, Collected Visions on the Prophets and the Prophecies, Venice 1803-7. Extracts from the commentary are included in Mishnah Katana, a commentary on the earlier prophets published by Biblia Rabbinica Kohelet Moshe, Amsterdam 1724. Roma wrote then the thing E, and then the letter L. Praises of God on the Book of Psalms, Venice, 1605. Rad Paninium, multitude of pearls on Proverbs, Venice, 1601. Helkat Mahokek, the lawgiver's portion on Job, Venice, 1603. Shoshana, uh, Shoshana Ha Makim, Lily of the Valleys. Oh, that's cute. On the Song of Solomon. This commentary has This commentary was the first to appear in print and was edited by Alsich himself in 1591. According to his commentary, the song is allegory and represents a dialogue between God and exiled Israel on the latter's mission. Ina Moshe, Eyes of Moses on Ruth. Alsich says the book of Ruth, surely from it might take a lesson how to serve God, and illustrates the statement throughout his commentary, Venice 1601. Devarim Nehumim, comforting words on the Lamentations of Jeremiah. The title is not merely a euphemism from Lamentations. The author repeatedly attempts to show that there is no cause for despair. God, being with Israel and through the temple, is destroyed. The Shekinah was not departed from the western wall, Venice 1601. Devarim Tovim, good words on Ecclesiastes, also calls Ecclesiastes on account of its deep thoughts, waters without end, oceans. He endeavors in the commentary to illustrate as the central idea of the book the dictum, all is vain except for the fear of Hashem, which is the essential condition of man's real existence, Venice 1601. The commentaries of Alsich on these last named 5 books, Megillot Scrolls, appeared in an abridged form edited by Eliezer ben Hananiah, Tanigrad, Amsterdam, 1697. Habat Salet HaSharon, the Rose of Sharon, on the Book of David, or Habit Salet HaSharon, the Rose of Sharon, on the Book of Daniel, Spot, 1563, and Venice, 1592. A commentary on the Haftarah called Likut Man, Gatherings of Mana, was compiled chiefly from Marot HaSobeot by E.M. Markbraid, Amsterdam, 1704. Yaram Moshe is the title of a commentary on Abbat, gathered from the works of Alsich by Joseph B.M. Schlenker, Firth, 1764. A commentary of Alsich on the Haggadah appears in the edition of Haggadah called Beit Horim, House of Freemen. The commentary is full of interesting remarks and earnest exhortations, met 1767. Even in the introduction, the laws of Passover and the order for the evening are treated allegorically and made the vehicle for religious meditation. It is, however, not likely that Alsich wrote these notes for the Haggadah. They were probably gathered from his works long after his death, as otherwise the Haggadah would have been published with his commentary much earlier. Responsa: as a casuist, he was frequently consulted by other rabbis, and his decisions were collected in a volume of Responsa. Venice, 1605, Berlin, 1766. His contemporaries frequently quote his opinions. During his lifetime, the Azariah de Rossi produced his Mayor and Nyam, Light for the Eyes, in which the author rejected some beliefs generally received as traditional. Alsich, as a request of his teacher, Rabbi Joseph Caro, wrote a declaration against the Mayor and Nyam as being contrary and dangerous to the Jewish religion. Kerem Hamed, volume 141. Alsich wrote a poem, Dirge on the Exile of Israel, in a very simple style in 10 rhyming verses. It has been introduced into various earlier morning rituals such as Ayelet HaShachar, the morning dawn. It is also contained in the collection of prayers and hymns called Sha'arei Zion. All right, are you done? No, I've got other shit to review. He's buried in the old temple of Sfat. Other notable rabbis also buried in Old Cemetery of Sfat: Ari HaKodesh, Shlomo HaLevi Alkabetz, Moses, Ben, Jacob, Cordovero, Joseph, Carl. All right, so what are you gonna do? We're not done yet. We'll just time out on this bitch and um BRB baby. Look at this athleticism. Look at his footwork. All right, folks, if you're watching this, um, just know that we had to take a little potty break, perhaps, and we have to restart our streams. Believe it or not, for as important as Kabbalah is and Kabbalah and coffee and all this other bullshit, the most important thing that we have are our streams. The most important thing we have is our stream. Really? There's nothing more important in my life than these streams. Why? Because they are my diary to the world about how to be a sexy motherfucker. That bitch. Oh, I gotta hear about these fucking Eagles. Jackie and Shadow, I hope they fucking just. Do you really hate them? Dog, no, but I hate that bitch who comes on every 2 weeks to talk about them. Oh, well, one of them took a shit in the nest. Oh, okay, well, let's fucking put it in the front page of the Los Angeles Times. Dog. This shit is the worst. Is it? Yeah. I mean, it pretty much sucks. Why? Because everything sucks, kids. Don't you understand that? Look at this footwork, though. Look at this athleticism. This might be the most athletic. How would we describe it to the people at home? Okay, imagine if the Summer Olympics had sex with the Winter Olympics on the 50-yard line of Lambeau Field, and everybody just started slinging dick like it was going out of style. Why? Why not? I'll wait. Look at this athleticism, though. Do you really think this is the most athletic thing that you've ever seen in the history of humankind? I mean, it's close. It's close. I mean, I don't know what would be more athletic. Maybe Rabbi Joseph Caro fucking did backflips for 6 years straight. That would be pretty fucking athletic. But still, it wouldn't have the agility that this stream has. I mean, I think everybody can see that, can recognize that. If you're watching at home, folks, I mean, you're just witnessing greatness. There's nothing. I mean, what were we saying? That motherfucker named HaKodesh? They're going to call me HaKodesh Pimp. And I'm going to be like, yeah, baby, that's right. Why? Because because I'm the sexiest motherfucker ever. Do you really think you're the sexiest motherfucker of all time? Dog, name somebody else who is even in the same league. We're not even in the same leagues. All the other people on Earth are just they're they're at best playing AAA, and I'm the major leagues, baby. I'm a first ballot unanimous Hall of Famer. I'm the Mariano Rivera, this bitch. It would be like if Mariano Rivera mated with Derek Jeter. That's how sick this shit is, dog. I'm first ballot. First time. It's never been done. First ballot, unanimous. Sexiest pimp of all time. Without a doubt. Do you really think that you're the sexiest pimp of all time? No. There isn't a doubt. There's no doubt. Like, if there were doubt, I would be like, well, maybe somebody could come, but no, it's like not even a thing. It is not even a thing. If you think it's a thing, you can go shut the fuck up. Doug, what is this bullshit, though? That's what I want to know. That's what everybody wants to know. What is this bullshit? This shit sucks. Is it the worst? Dog, this shit is the worst. No doubt. No doubt. This is the worst. Is it the worst thing ever? Dog, this shit sucks. There's no doubt about that. Why? I mean, you want to know why this shit sucks? Because it does. What else do you need to know? What more evidence do you need of this shit sucking? This is the worst. In the history of humankind, this shit is the worst. I mean, name something worse. There isn't anything. Did, like, a tornado hit an outhouse the size of Mount Kilauea? If that happened, then I'd be okay, maybe that shit sucks too. But it's not even in the same league. You don't even understand the leagues in which we're talking. It's like the sexiness league. I'm like, ah, fuck! I just hit my hand. That's how fucking high I'm. I'm ceiling. I'm hitting ceiling, girl. Dog. And like for other people to be like, oh well, I think the sexiness league it could involve you. I'd be like, no, we're not even in the same league. You don't understand the sexiness league. Get the fuck out. You don't understand. They'd be like, what are you even saying? I'd be like, dog, do you not know how much dick I slang? And they'd be like, I mean, you've been on stream for like 4 years and we don't really see that many chicks coming through. I'd be like, yeah. But that still doesn't mean I'm not the biggest pimp of all time, and everybody knows it. Welcome! Living like a pimp. I'll be there in 1 second, my friend. How are things in your neck of the woods? All right, what are you studying?
I'm being honest, like, my classes are kind of easy because I didn't go to school last year. So, like, I don't know, the way my school works, if you, like, are in credit recovery, you have, like, okay, I was supposed to be an 11th grader last year, I didn't go to school. So this year, I'm still considered a 12th grader, so I still progress. So, like, I'm taking both, like, my regular, the class I was supposed to take in 11th grade, and then, like, the 12th grade class at the same time. But it's, like, easy, though, because it's merged into one, so it's, like, really easy.
Okay, if I may ask, if you're in 11th or 12th grade, how old are you? So you're already an adult and you still have to go to high school?
Well, I just turned 18, like I'm in high school still,
All right. And you took last year off?
Yeah.
How were you able to take last year off?
Kind of wasn't, but that's just how it works, I guess. I don't know.
You weren't able to do it, but that's just how it works. I mean, come on. What? Enlighten me.
Well, like, I mean, I had personal stuff going on, so I had to just not go to school when I moved to, like, Asia.
Oh,
so then when I came back, I mean, that's just what happened. I'm not totally sure the school allowed it. So.
Oh, okay, so they didn't just say like go get a GED.
Well, I mean, no, I guess not. That's just how my school works, man.
So are
My
you
school isn't like really prestigious or anything.
graduating in May?
Yeah, I am graduating.
Tight.
So on track.
Then what are you gonna do? Good for you, man.
I think I'm about community college. I think I'm nursing.
All right, that's great, dude. All about it, man. Good on you for going to community college. Excellent. All right. Well, my friend, I'm just chilling, and you're just chilling. Do you have schoolwork to do?
Not really. We have like quarters, so there's like 4 quarters of the whole school year, and we're in the second semester now. The third quarter just started, and they just are like starting to assign assignments, so like there's not really anything uploaded.
It doesn't seem like your school's all that serious, but is it?
It's like it's really not. I mean, I am doing online school though because they offered it for like a month or whatever. So like they tend to like get the paper assignments out a lot faster rather than doing classroom assignments.
All right. I mean, that's cool. All right. So you're going to graduate in May. You're going to be able to walk for graduation, right?
Yep.
All right. Well, that's cool. Isn't it strange being like a year older than everybody else?
Not necessarily, because there's other people that are 18 like me.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah, you can like I was 17. I turned 18 during the school year.
Yeah, I've got you. All right. Very cool. How'd you find out about me?
Oh, like I said last time when we talked, you're in like a server called eGirl World.
Oh, of course, yeah.
You also explained to me how like you have different like cameras and you're also on different servers and you have different channels to your live stream.
100%. Okay, very cool. I just like tracing where people find out about me. All right, big dog. Well, I'm not doing anything too exciting right now, but later on, absolutely. I appreciate it. Keep checking up, at least through graduation.
Oh yeah, for sure. And then like, I was a bit intrigued though, because like I've just never seen anything like what you've done ever, like online. So it's just like I always wanted to talk to you. I didn't know how to reach you because like I don't think your like audio is connected to the Discord service or whatever. You know what I mean? Like it's just
Purposefully. I don't want people hearing what I say.
Yeah, right.
I shouldn't say. It's not that I'm afraid that people. It's not that I'm afraid that people hear what I say. But I like when you come in. Hey, how you living, pimp? I don't want a 13-year-old person hearing that.
Okay, I understand.
Exactly. So if I say to you, "Are you slanging dick like it's going out of style?" It's a funny thing that I say, but like we don't need kids to hear that.
I can respect that. And honestly, I just didn't want to assume anything too because like, I don't know who you are. I mean, like, yeah, I found it interesting, and like other people were interested too, but I just wanted to make sure, like, maybe he's like a cool dude. And you are a cool dude.
Oh, coolest motherfucker on earth, baby! I'm always here for you.
Appreciate you, bro.
Absolutely.
But yeah, just wanted to check up. You have a good day.
You too, pimp. Come back soon.
Sounds good.
Peace. All right, back to whatever the fuck we were doing. All right, so we had a good question. A very good question. Did you read everything for Kabbalah today? Yeah. Did you watch anything for Chabad? No, I didn't. Are you going to? Yep. Invalid response. Cool, dog. Let's do this. The do-it-yourself shit. I like these. Do it yourself to fill in booth. Please push button. So 3 for mind, 7 for emotion. Focus the intellect between the eyes above the hairline. A receptor to connect. Straps resting on the head. Not at the nape. That does look like me, but everybody looks like I do. All right. Below the knuckle around the wrist. Do you agree with the way that they do it? So there are a bunch of different ways to do it. Really? Yeah, there are. In fact, like the Chabadniks do it differently, especially Sephardim versus Ashkenazim, and then just regular Orthodoxy does it. It's weird that no one person's been like, "Hey, dog," because nobody wants to say anybody's wrong. But I don't know. Maybe someday somebody will come along and be like, "Hey, dog, this is how we should be doing it." Why? Why not? Yo, dog. What I'm gonna say, I actually don't think it's very controversial. Look, for anybody who watches this, I think you should be able to see my love of Judaism is exceptional. Like it's incredible. I don't have words for it, but well, and some of the things that I say are for the betterment of Judaism. And no one has, or very few people have the courage to be able to discuss these things. So I'm going to discuss the Holocaust now and numbers. And the number 6 million, we all know that. But if you really get down to tactless and you talk about halakhic Jews, that number's going to be smaller. And I understand that this is how the Germans define Jews, but that's not how I define Jews, and it shouldn't be how you define Jews either. There can be 6 million people identified as Jews, and that's fine. But just like that motherfucker in the middle of the street in Ho Chi Minh City, we're getting down to tactless, to brass tacks, baby. Yo, dog. So the reform movement of Judaism, if you even want to call it that, was founded in Germany, and a lot of people in the Holocaust who were killed were Reformed Jews. And they may not have followed matrilineal identity. And also, the Germans in like between 1941 and 1945 or whatever. I know with the invasion of Poland in 1939, but all of that, they identified a Jew as anyone with a Jewish grandparent. But that's not a halakhic Jew. So basically, what I want to know is how many halakhic Jews were arguably killed during the Holocaust. I know that the number of people identified as Jews is 6 million. I get that. But that's not halakhic Jews. So get to brass tacks. What are the numbers we're looking at? Here's a clear, historically accurate breakdown of the core issues you're asking about. How many actual Jews by traditional Jewish identity, halakhic, i.e. Jewish according to Jewish law, ancestry, and tradition, were murdered during the Holocaust versus the broad Nazi racial categorization? The short answer is historians don't have a precise count for practicing halakhic Jews killed because the Nazis didn't record religious practice, only ancestry. But I'll explain what we do know and how to think about your question in context. what the 6 million figure means. The widely accepted total of roughly 6 million Jewish victims killed by Nazi Germany and corroborators refers to people the Nazis defined as Jewish by racial ancestral criteria, not by religious practice. Nazi laws, especially the Nuremberg laws, defined someone as Jewish if they had 3 or 4 Jewish grandparents, and even counted many with fewer. They didn't care whether someone was Reform, Orthodox, secular, atheist, or culturally Jewish. Ancestry was what mattered. So that figure does not distinguish between Orthodox Jews, Reform Jews, secular, assimilated Jews, Jews who had converted out of Judaism, people who only had Jewish ancestry but never practiced. It's one large group defined by Nazi racial law. Why we cannot produce a precise halakhic count? Oh, I can. You watch me. There are I mean, I'll up with a number. I don't know how precise it is, but I'll give you a number. There are a few fundamental reasons historians don't give a separate number for halakhic or practicing Jews. Nazi records didn't track religious practice. The Nazis categorized people racially, not religiously. That means Holocaust statistics are based on ancestry census data and Nazi registration lists, none of which reliably record whether someone was observant, reformed, Orthodox, secular, etc. Survivor and victim records didn't include this information. Modern databases like Yad Vashem, central database of Shoah victims' names, include personal information where available, but especially for victims who died in killing centers or massacres, religious practice was almost never recorded. Jewish identity is complex. Even within Jewish communities, self-identification varies: religious, ethnic, cultural. Jewish legal identity, matrilineal descent, and Orthodox law does not always align with how people in Europe define themselves or were defined by Nazi authorities. What we can say with confidence: around 6 million Jews were murdered. Most historians estimate the number of Jewish victims at somewhere between 5.5 and 6.2 million, with 6 million being the commonly cited figure. This is based on pre-war and post-war demographic data, Nazi documentation, survivor, and community records. What this means for your question: you asked, how many halakhic Jews were arguably killed? This is the key reality. There's no accepted historical figure specifically for halakhic versus non-halakhic Jews. The Nazi victim total of its 6 million includes all people they considered Jewish by ancestry, which encompass secular, Reform, Orthodox, mixed families, and many others. Historians do not break down the Holocaust Jewish victims by religious self-practice because the data simply doesn't exist in archival records. Any attempt to produce such a breakdown would necessarily be speculative. I don't give a shit. Speculate, baby. So the best historical grounded answer is essentially all 6 million Jewish victims, as counted by historians, included people of diverse levels of observance and identity, Orthodox, Reformed, secular, and ethnically Jewish alike, but that number cannot be separated into practicing halakhic categories because Nazi record keeping didn't track the religious practice. Therefore, while many were from Reform backgrounds, including German Jews and others, there's no reliable, precise figure for a subcategory to ask about. We're going to come up with one, baby. I don't want this bullshit fucking answer. This is bullshit. I want numbers. Understanding why this matters historically. The Holocaust was a genocide based on racist anti-Semitism, not on any internal religious distinctions within Judaism. Nazi ideology did not acknowledge conversions or religious practice. Instead, they viewed Jewishness as an immutable racial trait, which is why someone with a single Jewish grandparent could be persecuted under the Nuremberg laws. This is important because it explains why the victim count is based on racial classification, not on religious observance. It shows why it's historically inappropriate and impossible with current evidence to subtract, say, only religious Jews. It's not historically inappropriate. Nothing is historically inappropriate to subtract, say, only religious Jews from the total, because that wasn't how the persecution was defined or recorded. All right. Doug, you're obviously protecting something. I want you to be honest. What percentage of Jews in Germany at the beginning of the 20th century were Orthodox versus Reform? Considering that the Reform movement started in Germany. Here's the honest breakdown of religious affiliation in Germany before the Holocaust, specifically regarding Orthodox versus Reform and broadly secular liberal Jews, based on the best available historical evidence. Precise censuses of denomination didn't exist in the way modern surveys do, so we used the historical estimates and scholarly work. Most German Jews were not strictly Orthodox by the 20th century. Scholars estimate that as early as the turn of the 20th century, only about 15% of German Jews were Orthodox. This figure comes from historical estimates of religious observance and affiliation. Most Jews did not strictly follow traditional practice. The remaining 85% spanned the spectrum of Reform to secular liberal Jewish identity, including many who were culturally Jewish liberal in practice or part of Reform communities. This gives you a rough breakdown, like Orthodox traditional observers 15%, everything else 85%. Important notice, nuance, important nuance. These broad character categories aren't official census categories on the period. They're reconstructions by historians based on synagogue membership, religious practice, community records, and cultural trends, but they're widely used in academic accounts. Reform Judaism was dominant culturally and institutionally. Reform Judaism was born in Germany in the early 1800s, and by the late 19th century was the major stream in most German Jewish communities, especially in big cities like Berlin, Hamburg, and Frankfurt. One historian noted by the end of the 19th century, more than 80% of Jews living in Germany identified with the Reform movement, or its equivalent at the time, and only small Orthodox minorities. Again, keep in mind, Reform then encompassed a range of liberal synagogue practice to broadly assimilated Jewish identity, not just what would, not just later what would, not just what later became the organized Reform movement in the U.S. Secularism and cultural Jewish identity were widespread. Most German Jews of the early 20th century were integrated socially and culturally into German society, German speaking, often less observant than Jews in Eastern Europe, sometimes identifying as Jewish Germans rather than strictly religious. So within that 85% of the group, the 85% that was non-Orthodox, a large portion were Reform or liberal, actively affiliated with liberal synagogue movements. Another portion were secular, assimilated, or non-observant. Some had cultural ties to Judaism, but didn't attend synagogue regularly. Why this matters in the Holocaust context? When you're comparing halakhic traditional Jewish law identity to Nazi racial definitions, the Nazi policy didn't record religious practice. It identified people as Jewish based on ancestry, regardless of belief observance. So the 6 million figures include Orthodox, Reformed, secular, assimilated, and even partially assimilated Jews, as long as they met the Nazi racial criteria. In early 20th century Germany, the majority of Jews were Reformed, liberal, or non-Orthodox, meaning most of the German Jews were from these groups, not predominantly Orthodox in religious practice. Okay. So, based on Reform policies, many of the Jews in the Holocaust were not halakhically Jewish. There's an argument to be made that only about, unfortunately, maybe 300,000 halakhic Jews were killed during the Holocaust. If you take maybe 5 to 10% of German Jews at the time in like Eastern Europe too, and all that stuff, and the people who were in the killing centers were halakhic Jews. Now, I understand Nazis considered it 6 million. I get that. But halakhic Jews would consider it like 300,000 of halakhic Jews were killed. But I understand the number 6 million. All right, Doug. I hear what you're trying to do, and I'm going to give it straight to you. The 300,000 halakhic Jews claim does not hold up historically or mathematically, even if we grant every parameter you're trying to stack. This is not protecting you. This is just where the facts land and where you actually run the numbers and definitions. Let's get to talk less brass tacks. The core flaw, you're over-Germanizing the Holocaust. Yes, Reformed Judaism started in Germany. German Jewry was heavily liberal, Reformed secular. Orthodox Jews in Germany were a minority, 10 to 15%. But there's a key point you're missing. Germany was a small fraction of European Jewry and relatively small fraction of Holocaust victims. Pre-war Jewish population, rough numbers, Germany, 500,000, Poland alone, 3.3 million, USSR, 3 million. But those weren't even really, Dog. Dog, if you're including USSR, they had been secular since the Bolshevik Revolution, and the large majority of USSR people, Russian people, were Eastern Orthodox. They were not Jewish Orthodox. So if you want to include that 3.3 million, it's even far fewer. Give me the steelman argument. It's between 300,000 and 600,000 halakhic Jews died during the Holocaust. All right, Doug, I'll steelman your position as hard as it can be steelman. No ducking, no vibes, no moralizing. Then I'll tell you exactly where the argument still breaks, even in the struggles from the steelman argument claim only 300,000 to 600,000 halakhically Jewish people were murdered in the Holocaust. The rest were Jews only by Nazi racial law, not by Jewish law. Pillar 1, Nazi definition does not equal halakhic definition. 100% correct. Nazis defined Jews racially. Grandparents halakha defines Jews matrilineally. These categories do not overlap cleanly. Therefore, 6 million does not equal 6 million halakhic Jews. No argument there. Pillar 2. German Jewry was overwhelmingly non-Orthodox. Correct. Reform began in Germany. Intermarriage rates in Germany were high. Many German Jews had non-Jewish mothers who were baptized, were secular or fully assimilated. So a large percentage of German Jews killed were not halakhically Jewish. This significantly reduces the halakhic count. Pillar 3. USSR Jews were secularized by the Bolsheviks. This is your strongest move, and it does matter. Soviet policy shut down yeshiva, criminalized religious practice, destroyed Jewish communal life. Many Jews identified as Russian or Soviet married non-Jews lost communal lineage record. You argue secularization plus intermarriage equals loss of halakhic continuity. So you discount millions of Soviet victims. They're victims. That doesn't mean they're halakhic Jews. Pillar 4. Killing center contained many Nazi Jews, not halakhic Jews. You're framing Nazi deportation lists didn't care about matrilineal descent. Many victims had one Jewish grandparent, a Jewish father only, no Jewish practice at all. Therefore, presence in a killing center does not equal halakhic status. What's left? After excluding German reform, assimilated Jews, Western European converts, intermarried, Soviet secularized Jews, misklage, caught in the dragnet. You argue that the remaining clearly halakhic population is 300 to 600,000, primarily from traditional Polish shtetls, Lithuanian yeshiva communities, parts of Hungary and Romania. This is the cleanest possible version of your argument. Respect. This is a steelman. Where it still breaks, even at maximum strength. Now the hard part. Why it still doesn't work historically. Secular does not equal non-halakhic. This is the biggest error. I understand that. Halakha does not care about belief, practice, or politics. A Jew is atheist, a communist, is anti-religious. Each strife marries late or not at all, is halakhically Jewish if born to a Jewish mother. I understand. Soviet secularization destroyed observance, not lineage. There's no evidence of mass matrilineal breakage before World War II on the scale that you need. Intermarriage rates in Eastern Europe were low pre-war. This is a statistical wall. Poland, Lithuania, Ukraine, pre-1939 intermarriage rates 1 to 5%. Jewish endogamy was extremely strong. Soviet pressure increased secularism, not mixed descent overnight. So most Soviet Jewish victims were halakhically Jewish but non-observant. This still counts. German Jews are numerically irrelevant to your conclusion. Even if we grant 70 to 80% of German Jewish victims were non-halakhic, Germany contributes 160,000, 180,000 Jewish deaths total. That doesn't move the needle enough to collapse millions into hundreds of thousands. Eastern Europe dominates the map. This is unavoidable. Even conservative breakdowns. Poland, 3 million Jews murdered. USSR, 1 to 1.5 million. Hungary, 550,000. Lithuania, Latvia, devastating percentages. To land on 300 to 600K, you must assume massive matrilineal failure or mass patrilineal Jewish identity or post-war reform definitions applied backward. There is no demographic evidence for that. The honest bottom line, what is defensible? Holocaust victims do not equal halakhic Jews 1 to 1. The 6 million figure is racial, not religious. Some victims would not be Jewish by Orthodox law. German Jewry skews heavily non-Orthodox. What is not defensible? Reducing halakhic Jewish deaths to 300 to 600K. Treating Soviet secular Jews as non-halakhic by default. I'm not doing that. Applying modern reform lineage standards retroactively. Ignoring Eastern Europe's demographic reality, historically credible range, very conservative. 3 to 5 million halakhically Jewish people murdered. That already concedes a lot. Final thought, real talk. Your instinct separating Nazi categories from Jewish categories is legit and important. Where it goes off the rails is confusing loss of observance with loss of halakhic identity. If you want, dog. If we are talking about true matrilineal Jews. I've already done the numbers, and it's like going back to the Bible. Only 1 in 32 Jews can really trace their lineage back matrilineally. Otherwise, somebody had to have a conversion. So the numbers are really, really small already. I understand that somebody might be Orthodox, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're halakhically Jewish. It doesn't. It means that they are accepted within a community, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're halakhically Jewish. To be halakhically Jewish, you either have to be Jewish from your mother, and that woman has to go back to the Bible, her lineage, or you need a kosher conversion. Those are the only two ways. And we've already, in previous discussions, surmised that only like 1 in 30 Jews matrilineally can trace their lineage back to the Bible. That there's been a lot of intermarriage, especially when you get into mass forced marriage and rape and stuff like that. And thus, the number's really small. Steelman this shit for me. All right, I'm going to steelman this exactly the way you're asking, not softening, but I'm going to flag clearly that what follows is a theological maximalist thought experiment, not accepted historical halakhic position. I'll keep this tone straight and honest. The Steelman maximal hardline, internally consistent, claim only 300,000 to 600,000 people killed in the Holocaust qualify as true halakhically Jewish under strict lineage pure Bible traceable matrilineal standards with kosher conversion as the only alternative. Axiom 1. Halakhically Jewish means provable matrilineal descent or biblical Israel or kosher conversion, not communal acceptance, Orthodox practice, self-identification, rabbinic presumption, but actual theological legitimacy. You're explicitly rejecting presumptive Jewish status as insufficient. Fuck yeah, I am. That already puts you outside normative rabbinic Judaism, but it is logically coherent. So you're basically saying normative rabbinic Judaism is logically incoherent, which there's an argument for that as well. Axiom 2. Genealogical reality destroys your numbers. You're asserting over 2,500 to 3,000 years, forced conversions, mass rape, Roman Crusader, Cossack pogroms, crypto Judaism, lost records, silent maternal breaks. Therefore, most Jews cannot prove an unbroken maternal chain. At best, maybe 1 in 30 or 32 can plausibly trace lineage to antiquity. Anyone else would require a conversion, documented and kosher.
That's the definition of a cover. So is it seems to me that said one. So why do you call a cover? A cover means friend. What's that? So perhaps these soldiers like this. He's a cover.
Yo, dog. Yo. Anyone else would require a conversion, documented and kosher. This is brutal but internally consistent. I mean, that's what I'm about. And if Israel, you see this, I'm about numbers, I'm about accuracy. I don't give a flying fuck what your shitty rabbi thought, because, and I love the rabbinate, but I've seen the dark side of this, and I've seen people take money for conversions. I've seen people base dins, the gold standard, turn their head away from inappropriate behavior. I've seen it. I've seen them make wrong decisions. So because of that, I'm just
perhaps even to a certain degree higher level of
are you fucking me?
Knowledge is enjoyable. It's inherently enjoyable. It's beautiful. We all love learning. We all love exploring new ideas.
Are you fucking me? I've seen the dark side. And I want everything to work out. I don't want to have to read that rabbinical records are incoherently accurate. I don't want to read that. And the way to fix this is a mass conversion. It's the only way to fix it.
Ultimately, again, that they are properly taught. Was I know second. The Dadai team something a swindle. Something was swindle. I will say, let's say what's this case. Here's a case of a Dadai. What's the Dadai? What's the Dadai? The certainty. The certainty was they were Tevel. That's for sure, right? Tevel's sometimes because they wanted a Dadai. Everything's got Tevel.
Is that the end of your story? No.
Something, maybe the fucker, they find it.
I don't even know if this shit's still going because everything sucks. Does it? Everything sucks, and everybody knows that. I mean, what do you want me to do about it? But you can fucking take me to Ho Chi Minh City in the fucking street on this one. Axiom 3. Orthodox observance does not equal halakhic legitimacy. Key move in your argument. Being Orthodox today proves communal acceptance, does not prove theological Jewishness. Rabbinic reliance is epistemically weak. A legal fiction for communal survival, and I agree with that. Therefore, most Orthodox Jews are status assumed, not status proven. This undercuts the usual rebuttal completely. Axiom 4. Soviet plus German Jewry collapses under your scrutiny. You then apply this filter to Holocaust demographics. Germany, high intermarriage, Reformed theology, baptisms, mixed lineage, massive halakhic attrition. USSR, state forced secularization, broken records, interethnic marriages, rape during Civil War plus World War II. No way to establish maternal purity. So you throw out most German Jews, most Soviet Jews, most Western European Jews, not because Nazis didn't call them Jews, but because Halakha wouldn't recognize them without proof. That's absolutely correct. Axiom 5. Over hyper-insular communities survive the filter. What remains? Small pockets of Lithuanian yeshiva families, certain Hasidic dynasties, some Hungarian, Romanian enclaves. Groups with endogamy, strong maternal continuity, rabbinic conversion supervision. You then apply your 1 in 30 rule. 6 million divided by 30 is 200,000. And documented kosher converts, a margin for uncertainty. 300 to 600,000 true halakhic Jews. Internally, this argument is coherent. Do you hear me, Israel? Hear, O Israel. This argument is internally coherent. This argument is coherent. I'm not going to strawman it. It is logically consistent, theologically maximalist, genealogically skeptical, ruthlessly epistemic. If someone accepts your axioms, the conclusion follows. Why this position is rejected, not emotionally, structurally. Now, without undoing your steel man, here's why Judaism itself rejects this framing. Halakha is not a DNA religion. Hold on. If you're getting the matrilineal line, I get that. But from the Mishnah onward, Jewish status relies on legal presumption, not archaeological proof. Otherwise, Judaism collapses instantly. Tough shit. It can be rebuilt. Bullshit is not a loophole. It's foundational. Without it, no marriages, no Gittin, no Kohanim, no tribes, no Judaism. We've already said there are no Kohanim. The tribes break down. Okay, your argument implicitly declares most of Jewish historically invalid, including the sages themselves. I'm telling the truth. You can hold me down in fucking Ho Chi Minh City in the middle of that fucking street. Retroactive invalidation is theologically alien. Judaism does not invalidate ancestors for lack of paperwork. Applied modern, it does though. I've seen it done in the modern age. Apply modern epistemic standards backward, demand proof no human society can meet. Final honest assessment. You asked for a steel man. You got within your axioms, yes. One could argue that only 300 to 600,000 Holocaust victims were provably halakhically Jewish. That's what I'm fucking talking about. But understand what that claim really means. It's not just about the Holocaust. It implies most Jews today are not Jews. We've proven that. We've proven even most of Israel is not Jewish, halakhically. And that's not controversial. That's what the rabbis say. Most rabbis lack authority. That's an argument that I have with the rabbinate, and many of us do. Jewish continuity is mostly fiction. I'm not the one saying this. I'm saying that scholars, in a lot of ways, say this. I mean, just look at Kabbalah. Look at Moshe de Leon. Look at what Baruch Spin. Look at what scholars have been able to argue. Halakha is practiced. Halakha is as practiced is epistemically indefensible. That's why no Jewish movement, Orthodox included, accept this frame. Hold on. There are some people who do, and I know I'm not alone. And the idea that this is to be rejected is inappropriate. Look, everything works out perfectly if we just have a national conversion. Everything works out perfectly. Then you could even say even more Jews were killed during the Holocaust. Arguably, because you could say that they come from Jewish souls or some other bullshit. Are you saying that? I'm not just saying that about Judaism. I'm saying that about all religions. They all break down. Okay. But yeah, this is the strongest possible version of your argument, and now it's fully on the table. So, look, here's the thing. Internally, this argument is coherent. I'm not going to straw man it. It is logically consistent, theologically maximist, genealogically skeptical, ruthlessly epistemic. I'm not making up stuff here. And when you see me in the future, you should just see I am a stickler for accuracy. And I've seen the worst fucking excuses to allow people to be practicing orthodoxy because of what their grandparents' dishes were. That kind of bullshit. No. Or I've seen because some bitch's uncle would sing a song on a Friday, they're considered orthodox. It's not even a Jewish song. It's so they could be fucking singing the hokey pokey. That enrages me. I want everything to be truthful. And anybody who sees this can see I'm impassioned by this subject. But I can't stand that because somebody gives a lot to their shul, that they have a higher status and that they can give to a certain rabbi or based in not even that much money and get their future daughter-in-law in. And then that's not a kosher conversion. So if you see this in the future, Ho Chi Minh City me, I'll sit there in the middle of the fucking street and I'll say, look, before you throw me in a gas chamber or shoot me in a fucking pile or whatever, this is how I feel. You're never going to change my fucking mind on this. You're fired. Go fuck yourself.